Yeah. There's just a couple of things that Glenn, as the station manager, can't say that I feel like I can kind of get away with saying. You know, it's not really a surprise that we've won this when you consider, you know, well, we've gone through 6 news directors or acting news directors in 4 years. We've got a computer system that if you, well, just go ask anybody at Cairo about the computer system. We've been in the box, out of the box, and in the box, and now we're in our latest in the box. Well, I tell you, it is not a surprise. It is a goddamn miracle that we have won this war. And I think all of this war, we deserve it.
Benefit of history and the like, do you think that based on what you hear, the prognosis can be okay?
Well, I would say that one of the things we have to keep in mind, and I hate to say this because it sounds cynical, but we usually don't get told the whole truth. Sometimes we even lied by presidents and their staffs when either the president or the vice president has a medical condition. We've had a history even in the last 10 years of presidential candidates either concealing information or lying about it. Paul Tsongas back in the 92 campaign, Bill Bradley withholding information. We have to wait and see and find out what these tests actually report and what kind of condition Cheney is actually in. Ask some hard questions.
Richard Shenkman is a presidential historian. He joins me now from Seattle. Richard, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Historically, how important has military experience been to the presidency?
Well, only 17 of the 42 people who have been elected president have lacked military service. The American people have always respected military service, even though they're not usually regarded as terribly militaristic. In fact, if you have a military record, it's an advantage, particularly in the 20th century after World War II and the Cold War, and after the Civil War in the 19th century. In fact, you couldn't get elected president after the Civil War unless you had a war record, with one exception, Grover Cleveland. He had hired a substitute and got out of service, but it was a big issue for him.
All right, you get the idea. Tony Blair in the well there, getting, cat calls from the opposition. Spanning the sweep of history, can you think of a president who would do well in that environment?
Well, we've had a few presidents who probably would do okay. Lyndon Johnson probably would have done fine. He was a creature of the Congress. I think he would have done okay. Ronald Reagan would have done terribly. The guy needed a script. He was a great president in many ways, but he needed a script. He wasn't very good just on his feet in that manner. And he also really preferred to be presidential. That was the key, that aura that he communicated of being presidential. That would not have fared well if he had to get into the bear pit and grapple with his opponents the way we just saw Tony Blair.
Rick Shenkman, professor of history, studies the presidency. He's in Seattle. Great pleasure having you with us. Thank you for your insights.
In the 1930s, the March of Time was the only film company willing to report on the rise and ruthlessness of Adolf Hitler. But up to 60% of the March of Time news films were faked or staged. They faked the voice of Eleanor Roosevelt and Franklin Roosevelt until FDR objected.
An ultimatum from the great powers of Europe sends a lone, strange man.
They faked footage of Hitler. That's not him sitting there by the fire. It's an impersonator.
I assumed this was Hitler. So they fooled me.
We invited a group of people who grew up with the March of Time to watch some of the company's news films with us. They were shocked to find out that the films included staged footage.
No, I didn't know that they had fake people like that they would use for newsreels.
Ethiopia, unconquered in 2,000 years.
They faked footage of Ethiopian leader Haile Selassie. This is the real Selassie. This is the fake.
Now that you've told us about it, he looked too perfect. So, but I wouldn't have thought that if you hadn't said it. I guess I'm gullible.
They showed fake footage of Louisiana Governor Huey Long dressed in pajamas at a meeting with a German diplomat.
Huey Long's informal reception brings a demand for an official apology.
They faked footage of New York City Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia at a fire.
Chief, last thing I do in this city, I want to get rid of all these old log tenement houses.
So that scene where he is standing in front of the fire truck and they're looking up and it looks like, gosh, they're looking at that tenement fire and they keep cutting back and forth. Well, that was the part that's faked.